Welcome to today's Explainer. Look, if you're tracking business trends, you already know sustainability is everywhere. It's a constant conversation. But we're diving into a new analysis from the GeneCapsule channel today, and honestly, it points to a massive, impending shift, like a game-changing shift with a highly specific timeline. We're talking about a transition so profound, it's literally going to rewire how successful companies operate from the ground up over the next couple of years. Let's jump right in.
So, ask yourself this. What happens when sustainability actually pays? Because for decades, the traditional view of corporate sustainability has been, well, frankly, a bit of a drag on the balance sheet. Am I right? It's been viewed almost universally as a compliance cost center, a necessary chore. You spend money to meet regulations, you spend money to hit quotas, and you just write it off as a cost of doing business. But what if that entirely flips? What if the very act of being sustainable becomes your absolute primary engine for growth? That is exactly the core paradigm shift we're breaking down today. All right, Section 1, the evolution of ESG and where it began.
To understand where we're going, we need to look at what we call Circularity 1.0. This is the traditional ESG baseline. For the longest time, when a corporation talked about mitigating damage, it was strictly about compliance, right? It meant managing corporate waste and setting up your basic recycling efforts. Think of a factory paying these hefty fees just to haul away scrap material so they don't get slapped with a fine. The mindset was purely defensive. It was all about, how do we clean up our mess so we don't get penalized? An obligation, a box to check at the end of the quarter. The entire focus was on handling the waste at the very end of the pipeline rather than, rethinking the pipeline itself.
Moving on to Section 2, defining Circularity 2.0, defining the new era.
So, the journey of this breakthrough paradigm shift really happens in 3 distinct steps. Step 1 is that traditional ESG we just talked about, that heavy recycling focus. But Step 2 is where the absolute magic happens. It's the core pivot. This is where a company's mindset completely shifts. They stop asking, okay, how much is it going to cost to dispose of this stuff? And they start asking, wait, how can we monetize this material again and again? For instance, instead of paying to dispose of agricultural runoff, a company figures out how to monetize it by converting it into biodegradable packaging. Incredible, right? And that leads us directly to Step 3, Circularity 2.0. This is where sustainability becomes an actual revenue driver. The focus permanently moves away from viewing it as a chore or some PR expense and transforms it into a foundational business strategy that actually drives top-line growth.
Now for Section 3, from waste to profit, the stark contrast. When you look at them side by side, the difference is night and day. The old way is heavy, it's expensive, it's focused entirely on managing waste and loss mitigation. It's a system completely defined by cost. But the new way, it completely flips the script. Words like recycling are replaced with generating revenue and driving profit. In a Circularity 2.0 model, your waste streams literally become your supply chains. It's a beautiful thing. Materials are kept in these continuous loops, which totally reduces the need to buy expensive virgin materials. We're seeing companies create entirely new product lines out of their own byproducts, opening up wildly lucrative new markets. It's the definitive shift from a defensive cost to a highly offensive financial reality.
Let's hit Section 4, the 2026 shift, and a clear urgency.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, sure, but this sounds like some distant, abstract future. Well, actually, no. The analysis points out a very clear, very real urgency. Lock this number in right now, 2026. The source explicitly identifies this specific year as the definitive turning point. We are not talking about some vague, sometime in the next decade prediction. No way. 2026 is when specific, massive catalysts are going to converge. Think about sweeping regulations like the EU's digital product passports coming online, which mandates full supply chain transparency. At the exact same time, advanced AI material sorting technologies are finally hitting cost-effective commercial scale. By 2026, this evolution to Circularity 2.0 fully materializes because both the tech and the law will literally demand it. If a business is still treating ESG purely as a recycling checklist by then, they are absolutely going to be fundamentally outpaced and outcompeted by companies that have successfully turned their sustainability efforts into a high-powered revenue engine.
If we look at the chronological arc of this entire shift, we started in Era 1, right? Simply managing waste, just trying to get it out of sight, out of mind. Then we slowly progressed to Era 2, basic recycling. It was better for sure, but still a net cost to the business. Right now, as we speak, we are crossing the bridge into Era 3, Circularity 2.0. This is where these closed-loop systems are being actively built, tested, and really optimized. And all of this culminates in Era 4, mapping perfectly to that 2026 milestone. We're talking about a highly profitable landscape absolutely dominated by profit and revenue generation derived directly from these circular models. Make no mistake, the companies that will dominate the next decade are the ones navigating this exact timeline right now.
And I want to point out, this entire framework is validated by the GeneCapsule analysis in their piece, Circularity 2.0, why 2026 is the year ESG moves from recycling to revenue. It proves exactly where environmental policy is heading, and honestly, more importantly, exactly where global capital is flying. It's just an incredibly validating blueprint for the modern business. So I want to leave you with this. The most vital question you have to ask yourself today is, where will your mindset be when 2026 arrives? When that milestone hits, will you or your organization still be looking at sustainability as a box to check and a fee to pay, or will you be positioned to leverage it as your absolute greatest competitive advantage? The shift from waste to profit is happening, the timeline is set, and the organizations that adapt their mindset today are for sure the ones who will own tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes firmly set on 2026.